to the big story of what's been happening just a few hours ago in a replay of sorts of what transpired in Delhi more than 2 weeks ago. These are the images we are seeing today across Mumbai and across other parts of Western India. We are seeing it in Surat, Mumbai, Mumbai. Number of people came to railway stations. They wanted to go back to their native places, and we had commotion and chaos that prevailed in parts of Maharashtra as well as in Gujarat, where migrant workers gathered in large numbers in Ahmedabad and Surat. Migrants in Telangana also seen marching on the streets, carrying their belongings with them. Now, why has this happened? That's the big question. Because this comes on a day when India will have 19 more days of a national lockdown, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced an extension till the 3rd of May. Listen in first to what the Prime Minister had to say.
सारे सुझावों को ध्यान में रखते हुए ये तय किया गया है कि भारत में लॉकडाउन को अब 3 मई तक और बढ़ाना पड़ेगा। यानी 3 मई तक हम सभी को, हर देशवासी को लॉकडाउन में ही रहना होगा। 20 अप्रैल तक हर कस्बे, हर थाने, हर जिले, हर राज्य को बड़ी बारीकी से परखा जाएगा। वहां लॉकडाउन का कितना पालन हो रहा है, उस क्षेत्र ने कोरोना से खुद को कितना बचाया है, इसका मूल्यांकन लगातार किया जाएगा। जो क्षेत्र इस अग्नि परीक्षा में सफल होंगे, जो अपने यहां हॉटस्पॉट नहीं बढ़ने देंगे और जिनके हॉटस्पॉट में बदलने की आशंका भी कम होगी, वहां पर 20 अप्रैल से कुछ जरूरी गतिविधियों की अनुमति, छूटछाट दी जा सकती है।
Okay, these therefore are the two images today. One is of the Prime Minister, who said that the lockdown will be extended till the 3rd of May, but on the 20th of April, the government will review the situation and based on reports decide what kind of lockdown a particular area will have. So that's what the Prime Minister has said. On the other hand, you've got those on the ground, as you can see in Mumbai, who hit the streets claiming that they wanted to go home. So these are the two images that have dominated the headline. The Prime Minister's message and what has been happening on the ground in Mumbai. We're going to try and reconcile those two images for you. Let's raise the big questions. Why are migrant laborers restless and angry? Is the healing touch missing in lockdown 2.0? How can the Modi government reassure migrant laborers? What more can the Modi government really do? These are some of the questions that I'm going to raise along with the extension of the lockdown. I'm joined by Yogendra Yadav. He's President Swaraj India. He's been taking up this issue for a while. Seshadri Chari, BJP leader based in Mumbai, is joining me. I'll be joined shortly by Shashi Tharoor. The Congress leader will be joining me from Thiruvananthapuram. Dinesh Trivedi, Trinamool Congress leader, will be joining me. And Clyde Crasto is spokesperson of the NCP. I appreciate all of you joining me here on the news today. And I want to come to those images. Dr. Tharoor, I want to come to you first. Do you believe that the images that we've seen in cities like Mumbai are a reflection that the lockdown needs to be matched by a greater element of compassion? Or do you see it as a one-off? We've seen issues involving migrants today in Surat, in Ahmedabad, and in Mumbai, many of whom say they want to go home. Do you believe that an extended lockdown needs to be matched by even greater compassion, especially towards those who are hurting the most?
Look, we've been saying this from the very start, Rajdeep, from the 24th of March, when the first lockdown was announced. basically most of these people have no jobs, no money, no source of food. Their employers, and you can't entirely blame them because they're not making any money either, are basically shelving their responsibilities for these people. And these human beings are saying, how do you expect us to survive? We don't have decent shelter conditions. We don't have food to eat. No one's giving us any money. We have no income. We want to go home. At least at home, there's the assurance of shelter, comfort, and whatever subsistence we can manage. And in these circumstances, what you've seen in Bandra, what you've seen in Mumbai, a suburb of Mumbai, they're the same compared with smaller numbers. Today, Hyderabad had a situation where 150 migrant workers started to just set off on a journey on foot until they were persuaded by the Telangana government to stay a payment of 500 rupees per head and 12 kilograms of rice. Now, this is the kind of thing, their demand is rational, it's reasonable. No one should be expected to live with no means of subsistence and no food. But it seems to me that for this to happen in Maharashtra, the richest state in the country, is truly shameful, and it shows that the central government isn't giving the state government enough to be able to enable the state government to do its assistance to these people. Provisions of food and water should be made available to all concerned. And Surat, exactly the same story, right? They said, we want provisions to go home. Those who went off there said their factory bosses have left them without money or food, switched off their phones, and nothing can be done for them. So that's why these migrant workers in Surat went on a rampage, even setting vehicles on fire and so on. But their concern is, pay attention to us, you are forgetting us. So it seems to me that if the central government, and I said this in my response to Mr. Modi's speech this morning, I support him fully on the lockdown, but at the same time, there has to be an immediate sense of assurance and responsibility for those who cannot cope without help in these very difficult circumstances.
You know, I just want to also add, though, Dr. Tharoor, many of the instances in Mumbai in particular are also being linked to rumors. Rumors being spread that the trains are going to be opened up, transport services are being opened up, other rumors suggesting people are going to face an even more severe lockdown. These are the kind of WhatsApp rumors that have been being put out, unconfirmed reports on certain local television channels. You know, do you believe that therefore is it only because of the lack of a relief package that people are hitting the streets? Or is it other elements also? Remember, many of these places where these protests are taking place have also got large minority populations who feel particularly vulnerable at the moment.
Well, look, I fully appreciate the fact that rumors are going around. That's probably been the case throughout. But the honest truth in our situation is that we're looking at a country where the migrant workers are, frankly, the least easy to reach, except for their direct employers. You're looking at a situation where a Jandan account will work for somebody who has access to his bank. You're looking at a situation where Manrega could be used, if provided the government is paying their dues, to people who are still in the villages. Who looks after migrant workers? Essentially, it's the people who are employing them. And if the people who are employing them say, boss, we have nothing to produce, we can't do anything, we have no work for you, goodbye, and wash the hands of these people, then these people are essentially completely without any help at all. And so it seems to me that the government ought to have paid attention to this. Not that they haven't given their Manrega dues, they haven't returned to states their GST. They haven't, there's a lot of things we've been complaining the government needs to do. But for the migrant workers, what's immediately necessary is shelter, food, water, and some subsistence money so they can survive as long as the lockdown is going on. We're talking about, 2 million people, 3 million people. This is not a colossal sum of people in a country of 1.2 billion. But the government seems not to have paid them attention. They've left it to the states. The states have, to the extent of their resources. In Kerala, for example, very few migrant workers have ever had to complain about lack of food or water, of shelter or accommodation. But where they have these concerns, you can't blame them for taking matters into their own hands. They don't need a rumor. They can hear the rumblings of their own stomach.
Sure. You know, there are, of course, and I want to, for a moment, before I come to my other guests, also go to Clyde Crasto of the NCP, because the NCP is in power there. While, Dr. Tharoor, you're pointing out the larger picture of what you believe is you need a greater relief package, the fact is law and order is a state subject. Clyde Crasto, at the end of the day, the NCP cannot shirk responsibility. The fact is that this has happened in Mumbai. This has happened right in the heart of the city. of blatant violation of the lockdown. Now, whatever the necessities of migrants, surely the police could have been better equipped to handle it.
Rajdeep, I agree with you. I mean, nobody can break the lockdown rules. But the point here is, if you look at it this way, these were the very people, the migrants, they just want to go home. That's what they've been talking about. Your reporters have been talking to them. They're just insisting that they want to go home. And let me tell you one thing, these are not some migrants.
No, is that the Maharashtra government line? Is that the Maharashtra government line that migrants who want to go home should be allowed to go home and that you should allow public transport? Because I didn't hear that from Uddhav Thackeray.
Rajdeep, if you allow me to finish, then
yes.
If you interject, then my sentences won't be complete, my friend.
Please do.
The point here is, let me be very clear and you hear me out clearly. I'm not saying that you are allowed to break the lockdown. We are not saying that you should travel. The point is, what I'm trying to specifically tell you is that these were the people that lived around the Bandra station. They came out there. And let me tell you one thing. Our Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, while in a video conferencing of the Chief Ministers with the Honorable Prime Minister, raised this issue categorically that the migrant situation has to be tackled. We have to look at them because from the ground reality, from we are getting from them is that they want to go home. They have food. We are taking care of them. More than 5.5 to 6 lakh people, migrant people, are being taken care of. They have been given breakfast, lunch, dinner. They have been given accommodations to stay. We are taking care of them. The Shiv Bhojan scheme has been extended.
Many of them have told our reporters that they are not getting the rations they want. They don't have ration cards. There are urban poor who don't have ration cards. They want ration.
There are both kinds of people, Rajdeep. I will show you videos where people are happy. People are happy. People are calling us and telling us that, listen, we are happy, but we want to go home. And the central government, along with the state government, needs to work out a plan where we need to figure this out, that these migrant people just want to go home. And so we need to work that out. And they cannot break the lockdown rules. We are not going to allow that to happen. The law and order will take care of it, but we need to look at this very deeply, and the central government has to bring in some ideas along with the state governments to look into this very seriously.
Okay, the whole issue, therefore, on a day when the Prime Minister has appealed to people to be more compassionate towards the poor, comes down to a lockdown with a human face, Seshadri Chari. Can you have a lockdown with a human face? Is that possible or not possible? People living on the margins, as Dr. Tharoor said earlier, need to be reassured. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their incomes. They are the ones who are most vulnerable. To that extent, who should bear the responsibility? The state governments, in this instance Maharashtra, or the centre?
No, the question is, it's a reality of the situation. Let us face it. It's a crisis situation. Nobody has forced this situation on these migrant laborers. Essentially, it all started with when the lockdown was announced. The migrant laborers were told that they should stay put wherever they are. Very unfortunately, the situation was not handled by the employers also, and the migrant laborers also did not know what to do. They were not assured of their jobs, so they started leaving. So it was necessary for the respective state governments to make them stay where they are. And there are a number of states where there are camps, and these camps are being held by the states themselves. So the question is not whose responsibility. The question is not shifting the responsibility from the state to the center and the center to the state. I think both the center and the state will have to deal with the situation. They will have to work out the situation in such a manner that the migrant laborers are assured that they will not go hungry. Nobody can promise them their jobs back. It's very difficult in such a situation. The industrialists are also in a bad shape. The employers are also in a bad shape. They do not know what is going to happen when they open their factories on the 3rd May or 4th May or 5th May, or they do not even know if the lockdown may extend beyond 3rd May also. So these are all the facts. So we are dealing with a situation.
So you're saying hunger. You're saying the key issue is you're saying the key issue of hunger. Let me just shift it from hunger to a key issue which other people tell me in Yogendra Yadav in Mumbai. When I'm living in Dharavi, in an 8-foot by 6-foot flat, 5 people, 6 people to a room, I feel claustrophobic. I long to go back to my village. That's my comfort zone. Do you believe social distancing to that extent is a privilege for the elite? And therefore, you need to find some way, some space in places like Mumbai, which is experiencing some of the worst coronavirus cases, among the highest coronavirus cases like in Dharavi, that you're going to have to find a new way in keeping people under a lockdown. That's the problem, that we now need to treat the urban migrants, urban poor very differently.
Rajdeep, all we need to ask ourselves, we are stuck in an alien place without food, without income. If we are stuck, what would we do? That's what they are doing. So why are we surprised? The surprising part is that it was not anticipated. I want to underline, Rajdeep, that what we are witnessing on television screens is only tip of the iceberg of this human tragedy that's unfolding in front of our eyes. These are the migrant workers who are stuck, happen to be the ones who are captured by televisions. Behind them is another set of migrant workers who are not in metros. Most of them are at their work site, some construction site, somewhere where they are, where no one recognizes them. They are not on the street. They are not in any camp, and their situation is terrible. And then the third category of those who supposedly have a home in Dharavi or wherever. They have a home, it's compressed, it's claustrophobic, and they want to go back. This number could be in crores. And then there are those who are not migrant, but those who are, again, without jobs, without income, without anything to fall back upon. So to my mind, the only way of making this lockdown successful, forget human. It happened in Surat. There have been some reports of food riots, of food trucks being looted. And this is the last thing we want to see in India. So instead, this government or that government, let's think of
we're just going to try and get your audio a little bit better, Yogendra. But while I do that, Shashi Tharoor, let's be honest. As you've said in your response to the Prime Minister's statement, you support the extension of the lockdown. You believe that it is important in a way to control corona. You need an extension of the lockdown. At the same time, you call for a sweetening of the pill. Let's be honest. Do you believe that lives and livelihoods can go together? The moment you extend a lockdown, there will be people who will have to change the way they live, and those at the margins suffer the most. So how do you ensure this balance? Is a challenge not just for India, but for many countries in the world, especially in less developing countries with large poverty populations.
So the argument is very simple, actually, Rajdeep, which is that you do need the lockdown because we don't have the capacity to cope with hundreds of thousands of cases. It's as simple as that. We're just not equipped for it. So we need to prevent people falling ill in the first place. That's why I support the Prime Minister. Equally, I support his intention to have a phased lifting on the basis of data that he wants to wait to collect the 10th of April. Where are the trend lines? We've seen in Kerala, they've flattened the curve. In Maharashtra, the curve is still rising. So it's going to vary from place to place. If they can evolve the kind of formula recommended by the Kerala expert group, which said that you basically color code the districts on the basis of how many recent cases they've had and how many people are under home observation. And when you don't see recent increases, you let them restore normal lives, start working again, opening shops and so on. And those areas where there is evidence of recent virus attacks or recent difficulties when it comes to needing to place people under home observation, there you continue the lockdown. Now, who are the people that are getting left out of all of this? Undoubtedly, the migrant workers are key. Other employees who are dependent on a daily wage are key. And clearly, the government needs to provide a safety net, which it has not so far done, for those who have no other means of survival. I'm sure you said you're going to have Jean Dresse later in the program.
Yes.
He'll give you very detailed and thoughtful ideas. But there's no question in my mind that we have a large number of vulnerable people for whom the only Sahara is the central government. And the central government is just going to have to do whatever is necessary to ensure that those who literally have no other means of survival, they don't work today, their family doesn't eat tonight. Those people are taken care of for the 3 weeks, the 6 weeks, whatever it takes for us to beat this.
No, but
I agree with the government policy that objectively
whose responsibility,
we cannot afford to.
Dr. Tharoor,
lift the
whose
lockdown.
responsibility? The state government or the center? Who takes that prime responsibility of ensuring that if there is a migrant living in my state, whose responsibility should it be? Should it be of the Maharashtra government in this instance, or should it be of the center?
I think it's a collaborative responsibility, Rajdeep. First of all, the government in the center has declared a national lockdown on the basis of powers given to the central government under the National Disaster Management Act of 2005. Therefore, the central government has taken upon itself a power that, for example, the US federal government doesn't have. Each state has the power. So because this is the case, the state and the center has to work together. And the center has to give certain dues to the states, which it has lagged behind in paying. A classic example is GST dues. They may have to borrow money if necessary to be able to pay those dues, but unless they transfer cash to the states,
right,
the states don't have the resources available to do what they need to do. So it's not just a question of compassion, it's also a question of practical realities. Governments need money to do the work they're supposed to do, and the intention has to be there. But the fact is that the central government ought to have thought about all this. If they're declaring the lockdown and they're imposing it on the entire country, I believe was the right thing to do. I would have done it with a little more notice and a little better planning. Nonetheless, they need at the same time to equip the states to support the vulnerable. Otherwise, they have to do it themselves. They have not yet transferred dues for the Manrega workers. Mm-hmm. They have not increased, as we suggested, the amount of money in the Jan Dhan accounts or in the PM Kisan Yojana. And now we have, of course, the relaxation for agricultural workers to go and do the harvest. Otherwise, the food will rot in the fields. The truth is, there's an awful lot that needed to be attended to. The central government is the all-seeing, all-knowing apex at the top of this decision-making pyramid. They will have to make those decisions. They will have to take the call, and they will have to find the resources. We have to support them, but we have to remind them what they need to do, because that's what you're doing in the media, is showing us where the system has failed.
Sure. I'm going to come back to you. I think you're making very important points there, Dr. Tharoor, how to achieve this balance between lives and livelihood. But I want to go to a newsmaker guest joining me at the moment, because Vinay Chaubey is the joint CP Mumbai. Vinay Chaubey, the question I asked earlier to Clyde Crasto of the NCP, was the police caught napping? Did the police not know about what could happen, that so many hundreds of people gathered around the station at a time when the lockdown is in place in Mumbai? Were there rumors that were spread that trains will be made available from today? There were all kinds of rumors, I'm told, on local regional channels that led people to believe that they could assemble at the station. What happened exactly? How did the police not know that so many people would gather at the station?
Good evening, Rajdeep ji.
Good evening.
The people who gathered at Bandra station, they basically came from adjoining areas. These adjoining areas are quite congested and where they have very high population density. So it was not as if they travelled along the road and came. They came from the area which are contiguous to the railway station. Mm-hmm. And how and why they gathered, whether there was some rumor going on, there was some TV report also, then there were, we have been sounded that there were some other kind of information that was available with them. So we are looking into it, making any
no, but isn't it sorry to say this, isn't it at one level an intelligence or a police failure, sir? When in the middle of a lockdown where most Mumbaikars are being asked to stay at home, in a city where coronavirus cases have risen, hundreds of people gather at one place. Are you telling me it was impossible to police this?
No, what I was trying to say is that these people were from the adjoining areas.
Right.
The very adjoining area, very close to Bandra railway station. So it is not as if they came along the road and then. But we are certainly looking into the fact that how initially some person came and then others also joined them.
How difficult is it to police Mumbai at the moment? How difficult is it to control the congested areas of Mumbai where people live cheek by jowl, as I said, 6 foot by 8 foot kholi in which 5 and 6 people live? Is it very difficult to force people to stay indoors?
Yes, the areas which are congested, in those areas to keep people inside their houses, that do take a lot of effort, and we have been doing that with regular announcement, with our CCTV monitoring, and also monitoring and announcement by drones, etc.
Right.
So, and most of the times we have been getting good response, positive response from all concerned. We have tried to vegetable markets.
But you're admitting that it's a tough task. But you're admitting as a senior police officer that it's not an easy task. And I think one must empathize with the police. I appreciate your joining us, Mr. Chaubey. And I want to take that to Seshadri Chari. You know, Mr. Chari, again, the gap between, if I may call it, the physical and mental distance between Delhi, living in the bureaucrats and the politicians who live in the bhavans and the corridors of power, and the reality of living in an 8x6 room in Dharavi. I mean, who's going to overcome that? People are being asked to stay, I can understand, for understandable reasons, for 3 weeks, now for another 19 days. But people also need to be convinced that the government has the best for, people need to realize, maybe those watching this program, what it means when 6 people are forced to live within a 8x6 kholi, cannot leave. It's not easy.
This is a, as I said earlier also, this is a very difficult situation and very unprecedented. It is not that this is for the first time that people are living in a small 10 by 10 room, 10 people are staying in one room and all that.
No, but not being allowed to leave. The difference is for the first time. When was the last time that people were asked to stay for more than 50 days, claustrophobic in a chawl or a slum?
Correct. But the question is, the central government did not create these slums in 2014. These slums have existed. Central government was not responsible for spreading coronavirus in India. It has come to us.
Sure.
So the question is not to go back on these problems, but the question is how to resolve. Therefore, I am still waiting for somebody to give a concrete suggestion instead of just blaming the central government or the state government. The only good suggestion is that both the governments should work together. Fine, they are doing it. And most of the state governments and also the central governments have roped in NGOs, non-governmental organizations. The Niti Aayog and the Finance Ministry has also written to non-governmental organizations. They can be roped in. Police hands can be strengthened. Actually, the police is fighting a very tough battle on two sides. One, they have to keep the law and order situation. Educated people are roaming around all over the place in cities like Bombay. They are also looking for provisions. So police has to control them. At the same time, there are poorer areas where these things have to be done. And there are NGOs which are working.
Let me ask Yogendra Yadav.
One NGO.
Let me ask Yogendra, you're saying let's look for solution. Yogendra Yadav, we all know the problem. There is a serious problem of the urban poor. According to Seshadri Chari, what's the solution? Where is this concrete solution that is being offered? It's easy to blame the government. Coronavirus was not brought by the Narendra Modi government. Countries across the world are doing lockdowns. India is no different to the rest. Why should, therefore, are you questioning the lockdown? Are you questioning its implementation? Are you questioning the lack of a safety net? And what's your solution?
I have repeatedly said, this is not the time to play opposition. This is not the time only to blame the government. Yes, it's a very hard and difficult decision that any government would have to take. What is it that can be done? To my mind, any such extension of the lockdown has to be accompanied by significant expansion of social security net. And unfortunately, the Prime Minister's statement today did not give an indication of that. What can be done tomorrow? Number one, either run point-to-point special trains for these migrants, which can be done. Railway is equipped for that. And I'm told they were willing to do it just before the lockdown was announced. If that is impossible from the government's point of view, they probably know better. In that case, these migrants who are stuck, who are stranded, have to be given food and cash, not merely food. They need cash to buy chai for the absolute bare minimums of their life. That's one. And this job cannot be left to the citizen.
So you're saying
ration has to be given to anyone who turns up on a ration shop. This Supreme Court orders of 2013. It should be implemented all one.
We're still having problems with your audio, but I think we've got you're saying cash and food. It's not enough to just give food, you need cash. Clyde Crasto, The Maharashtra government claims that they are empathetic, that they are genuinely concerned about the problems. But as I said, there are many people who our reporters have met who say they were denied ration because they didn't have ration cards. Now that is, why not just universalize it? Ensure that anyone, as Yogendra Yadav says, comes to the ration card, gets his or her ration. This is the time to open up your hearts.
Yes, Rajdeep, it's been happening on ground. See, like you said, there are your reporters have been speaking to a section. There is other section also who's happy. There are all problems that are going to happen in a lockdown like this. You know, it's a huge task. Now, there's no point blaming the central government or the state government. You know, this is the time to come together and work. And when I'm saying this, you know, we are in a catch-22 situation, whether it's the central or the state government. But the states need to be given more support. The center needs to look beyond political parties, beyond political governments. They need to come together and show more support. Now, like the joint CP said, it's those people around that station area. You know Bombay like the back of your hand, and I know it like the back of my hand. And these are the people that came out, and it's not that we are saying it. We are empathetic towards the people because it's our duty. We are not just doing it. It's our duty because we are in government. We have to make sure these people are comfortable. But at the same time, now there are a lot of issues. Like, for example, the whole rumor mongering. Why are people doing something like that? I mean, I can go and tell you a lot of things, but today is not the time. The central government needs to work out in a phased manner how to support these migrants. This is the issue that the Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray ji raised it in the video conferencing, and the central government needs to take this very seriously. The migrant issue is a big issue. We need to work out in a manner where we can do a phased manner of if they want to go back home. Then, like Dr. Tharoor said, like, you know, how are we going to take care of them? You know, the GST returns have not come back to the states. The states suffering, the coffers are, trouble.
Are you open to a point-by-point train service for them, like Delhi was? Are you all saying that Maharashtra government would want to do that, point-by-point train service? A quick answer.
We need to work with the central government, and the central government and the state government has to be in unison to work it out for these migrants and the people who need to go back home. The central and the state.
How has Kerala, Dr. Tharoor, how has Kerala handled it? Kerala also had in some parts a problem of migrant workers who apparently wanted to go back, apparently weren't being paid by their employers. Now you seem to have kept them in relief camps. What is this Kerala model that maybe the rest of the country could look at again?
Well, they built the shelters right away, or found shelters to accommodate them in, made sure 3 times a day food was provisioned, water was given, their needs were attended to, any questions they had were answered, attention was paid. That's essentially all that human beings want. And, you know, we also sent out messages. I, as an MP, did messages in both Hindi and Bangla saying, listen, the borders are closed. You can't go back. Stay there. We'll look after you. Your problems are not your own. We're also there. That kind of messaging is very important as well. I mean, Mumbai has a big challenge. It's a huge city and the numbers are much larger. But nonetheless, the fact is that if enough thought had been given to this and enough advance notice had been given, I'm quite convinced this problem could have been dealt with. It's an anticipatable problem. And in terms of the size and demands of the country, it's not something that couldn't have been resolved early on.
It's just that Mumbai, like Delhi, Dr. Tharoor, are cities of migrants. The numbers are very large. Those living on the margins are very large in cities like Mumbai and Delhi.
Fair enough, but let me be very blunt. We were given 2 days notice for the Janta curfew on a Sunday. But we were given 4 hours notice for a 21-day lockdown. Imagine if the government had planned earlier and given a 3-day notice. Do you think many of these migrants wouldn't have got their own tickets and gone on their own existing scheduled trains to go back to their villages? The problem was there was no notice. The trains were shut down. The buses were shut down. They were stuck. Had this been planned better, it could have been prevented. Okay, it wasn't prevented. Then you anticipate finding a buffer. Many of these people are stuck, by the way, in limbo. People who started walking home never got there because they were intercepted on the way and parked somewhere in camps. These are challenges which honestly reflect a failure of governance. I don't really want to play the blame game. Honestly, this is a fight. We're all in it together. It's not a time of politics per se. It's about solving human problems. But very clearly, this was a large section of humanity that was not paid the attention it should have been paid. Now, there are other sections. I mean, for example, many of our NRIs are in desperate shape as well. We have blue-collar workers in the Gulf who are falling sick in droves, feel they're not getting enough support there. The host countries want them to go back to India. India says we can't take them. There are no flights. That's another problem. So there are major challenges. I'm not saying that being in government is easy, but being in government is also about anticipating problems and using all the machinery at your command to put the systems in place to deal with those problems. And that's right, I think, what we all are entitled to expect from our government, whether the central government or the state government. And where there have been lapses, rather than pointing fingers at the lapses, what we're saying is fix it now. We can say you should have done this earlier. There's no point saying that earlier is over. Fix it now. And that's the message that has to go to all those responsible at this point.
Yogendra Yadav, you're finally clear in an audio with us. Give me a minute. How do you fix it? Dr. Tharoor says fix it now. Otherwise, the social unrest, we've seen it in Surat, Ahmedabad, and in Mumbai today, could spread to other parts. Therefore, fix it now. How do you fix it? A quick 1 minute from you.
I agree with you. I want to remember that it's only a tip of the iceberg, because the problem is not only those migrants who happen to be stranded, also those migrants who are stuck in their work site. Problem is also those who are ostensibly living their home, but they're itching to go out. So the solutions are: number one, point to train, which can be done. Plus cash. And limit all our thinking only to the few migrants whose stories we happen stranded migrants. But for everyone, universal food. And Mr. Chari, I'm not. The only reason I'm talking of the central government is that the central government has to issue a notification under NFSA, which it has not. It must do so now. Number three, community kitchens should be started. Every government school which has been running midday meal schemes, they can easily start from tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. They can start running meals twice a day. Number four, all the Manrega workers throughout the country.
I think we've got the gist of what you're saying, even as the audio kept going. The fact is, you need to show more compassion. You're going to need to do that even as this lockdown is extended by another 21 days. We're waiting for the guidelines of the new lockdown. We're waiting for the guidelines of the new lockdown come tomorrow. But for now, I want to appreciate my guests joining us on my big story. Clearly, the focus in a way is on the urban poor. Thank you very much, Dr. Tharoor, Clyde Crasto, Seshadri Chari, Yogendra Yadav, for joining me. My take: the extension of the lockdown by 21 days was in a sense inevitable. There is enough evidence to suggest that the lockdown has had an effect in slowing down corona positive cases in several parts of the country. And yet it is also clear that one size doesn't fit all. India will need a detailed strategy that balances lives and livelihoods and offers a clear exit plan, especially for those who stand most to lose from an extended disruption in services. The urban migrant labor is particularly vulnerable in this regard and needs to be cushioned from a lack of income and food. The health emergency remains a priority, but any coercive step must be matched by compassion, especially in an atmosphere where rumors are spread like wildfire. Truth be told, the distance between the ground realities in a Mumbai slum and the lush corridors of power in Delhi needs to be bridged as soon as possible.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.